everyone and welcome back to the Promotion on a Budget podcast. We're finally back and we have a studio space which is very nice little backdrop. I'm joined with Joshua Varoka.
Hello, I'm back.
And today we're gonna add a new sort of spice to the podcast. We're gonna talk about different things, we're not just gonna do the boring old review, preview thing that we have done in the past. But yeah, Josh, how are you today?
I am absolutely fantastic. How are you feeling after I beat you on FIFA twice?
Oh yeah, let's not talk about that. How are you feeling after 2 defeats on the back for Reading at the minute? Three defeats. Three. Oh, just reminded me.
Oh yeah, no. I've been in better states, put it that way. Conceding 9 goals in the last? Yeah. We've been absolutely dire.
What's gone wrong? What's gone wrong?
I think it's the main thing for me, noticing what we've done wrong is, well, it's not even what we've done wrong, it's who we're missing. Liam Moore's out injured, John Swift's out injured, Obi Ajari's out injured, Yaku Mate's out injured.
Yeah, so you've got a lot of
injuries. We've been missing the core of the team that's got us through the last couple of seasons. And I think, realistically, when you haven't got as much depth as a lot of squads have, I mean, I know we look at the teams kind of at the top of the league at the minute, a lot of them have got very, very good strength in depth. 100%, especially the 3 teams that have come down, which are obviously up there as you'd expect them to be, because of how they work, how well they've actually retained their players.
100%.
We've not got that strength in depth. I mean, the club philosophy, the way the club has had to operate has involved a lot of kind of investing in the youth. I mean, this season alone, we've had over 4,000 minutes clocked for academy graduates. We've actually given 6 academy graduates their debuts this season. They're all still involved within the first team squad, be that through the cup competitions, which obviously we've been knocked out of at this point, or just even kind of bench players in the league. They're kind of players that we feel comfortable in bringing on, and they've gelled well into the kind of environment of the training room. But we're seeping goals like we're a wet sponge, to be quite frank.
Yeah, I saw a stat somewhere, and I think it could be a very good reason to why you are not picking up points. The fact that you've been found out. I think I saw a stat somewhere you had 25 shots and your opening got God knows how many games. Your winning run, so to speak. And you had 25 shots and you scored 14 goals out of those 25 shots. Do you think that that's very lucky to score 14 goals from 25 shots?
I wouldn't call it lucky. I know what you're referring to. You're referring to the whole XG model that seemed to really come to fruition this season. I think it's a load of rubbish. I don't think it takes.
But it was always going to come to an end. You got to think about it.
No, the winning was always going to come to an end. I mean, I've said that to you day in, day out.
Times,
I mean, the amount of times I've kind of posted on my personal social media going, how are we still top of the league? We're not a top of the league club. No way in what we've got should we be anywhere near where we are. I'm hoping, as a fan of the club, that we don't drop off. But to be quite frank, that's all that's going to happen now. We've got a very tough run of games at the end of this international break. And all I'm hoping is that when we get players fit, we can get the team mojo back again and we can start rolling through like we were. Not necessarily expecting us to be picking up wins and scoring a lot of goals. I'm expecting us to just pick up points where we need to. I mean, we've got a very, very important game this weekend.
So, Josh, as you were saying about the whole XG thing, for me, that's really affected your season because you haven't been able to score goals now because your luck has kind of run out in front of goal.
We were clinical, to be quite honest. We took our chances. We had a lot of the goals that we did score were very clear cut, and realistically, I wouldn't call it down to luck. I think that, like I said about the absentees, there's been a shift in kind of momentum, a shift in energy within the squad, and ultimately that's kind of stopped us dead in our tracks. But the one thing I will point out, we somehow have retained top of the league despite losing 3 games in a row.
But you have, so I think
it's not, like we said, it's not going to last. I will say that not only as a Reading fan, but as a football fan. That will not last. We will drop and we will drop and we will drop. At the start of the season, backed us to finish mid-table at best.
Yeah.
We were coming into this season, a new manager, kind of, let's hope we don't have another season of a relegation scrap. That's all we wanted. It's all we wanted. Realistically, I'm more than happy we've had this 11-game stint. For me, I think it's about to come to an end. I can't contest it too much. But, I mean, you've got to look at the quality that we've got in the league at the minute. Even some of the teams that are further down the league shouldn't be where they are.
And we'll go on to that actually now. We'll talk about Derby County.
I think that's the main
big
one.
news coming out of Derby County over this weekend with Philip Cocu leaving and his coaching staff both all getting sacked. And rightly so, they've been absolutely diabolical.
The fact that you're sat below a team with a points deduction, and the fact that they're sat below a team who, in their before their last 3 games, so they went, I believe it was 8 games without picking up a single point.
I think they went a big number of games without scoring a goal as well, Wickham.
They did. Wickham, again, like we've said in previous podcasts, I want to see Wickham do well.
But can we see it? Well, they have, been unbeaten in the last 3.
They've proven they can do. Things. They can grind a result out. That's the main thing that a lot of people kind of overlook.
Yeah,
they nearly did it against us.
And they did get a point against Watford as well. So
they are capable of causing some upsets. I think, as much as it's kind of a bit mainstream to talk about, look at who's come back into that squad. Bayo Akinfenwa.
He's a top quality striker.
He's come back into the squad.
38.
He's 37, 38, I believe, and he's come back into the squad, and he's caused an absolute stir. Championship teams don't know how to handle him.
I don't think anyone does. He is an
absolute unit, and he
beast mode.
He's done very well in himself. I mean, obviously that kind of result. For Wickham going forward came to an end with them losing 2-0 to Forest last game week. But like we said, even kind of high quality teams being down there. We've mentioned Derby. We've said obviously Rooney now having taken interim head coach.
Big. How do you think Rooney will fare in that sort of role?
I mean, I think personally, from watching him play, has still got a couple more years of a playing career left in him in England. I then think after he finishes in England, he can go back abroad and still do very, very well.
So you still think there's playing years in him, but
I think he's still got a bit of time in him.
As we've seen from other ex-professional footballers that were managers from Rooney's time, such as Lampard, such as Gerrard, they've gone on to managerial roles, and obviously we've seen Lampard do very well at Derby, and now gone on to Chelsea. We've seen Gerrard now do brilliant things with Rangers. Do you think Rooney will add to that sort of new coach coming from professional football straight away?
It's very hard to determine with a coach, like a player going straight into a coaching role.
He's taken up a very big role as well.
It's not even that. Not even that though, because what you've always got to bear in mind is obviously he's been a player coach, and as a player coach, you kind of you can never really tell what's his work, and you've got to kind of balance what's him, what's the manager, what's the other coaches. Because bear in mind, he was obviously a part of a coaching. But like a back room of coaches that you can't tell what's him. I mean, if you look at someone like Paul Scholes, he obviously didn't have the most successful spell at Oldham. There are players who have gone into coaching and kind of not necessarily taken off as much. It will be interesting to see. I don't really think I'm going to make a judgment on it now because, like I say, I think he personally, his playing career, for him, that should be his forefront just for now.
But it is interesting.
He's got it in him. He still plays very, very well.
Yeah, obviously, as a Norwich fan, I know because he scored that free kick against us. But no, it'd be interesting to see how Rooney fares out because obviously he is a player coach at Derby before Cocu got sacked, so he has got some sort of coaching experience. But I think to bring him already, just jump him into first team manager. I think
the key bit being interim would be until they find someone.
Yeah,
I mean,
but then
the main bit. Yeah,
if he turns Derby's form around, give him 6 months. If he turns Derby's form around, and if they're starting to see signs of improvement, then by all means,
let's take us on to the next kind of big team in what I'm about to say. I think before at the start of this season, any team looking for a decent first team manager, Chris Hughton would be the first name I'd say. And if you look at what he's managed to do at Nottingham Forest, he's turned them around massively.
Yeah,
he's got them. I mean, they've got 12 points on the board now, I believe. And if you kind of look at it in the respect of where they were, again, very similar position to Derby, very similar position to Wickham. struggling to score, struggling to get results. He's turned them around. They are now on 12 points out of the last 11. They are 5 points clear of the bottom 3. Obviously, 5 points at this stage of the season is nothing. But I think the main thing to look at is he is a very, very good manager.
All right, we'll go on to another few sides on good form. We'll go on to my team, Norwich. I think that, there's a big shout that they're 7 unbeaten at the minute. I believe they kept 4 clean sheets.
You keep reminding me.
Yeah,
I can't forget.
4 clean sheets, I think, in their past 7 games as well. Tim Krul was nominated for Player of the Month. You had Daniel Farkham nominated for Manager of the Month. They've risen up to, pretty much joint second league, but third in the league.
Third in the league on goal difference. You've done very, very well. This is kind of, I think, for me now, looking at the kind of teams second downwards, Watford, Norwich and Bournemouth, the 3 relegated teams are proving they are very, very strong.
This is the first time we've seen it as well. We've seen all 3 relegated teams actually battling for promotion.
It's been a while.
You always see one drop off. Like with the Stoke season, you always saw Stoke drop off.
Huddersfield.
Sunderland.
Obviously Sunderland did the kind of the worst bit, and they did the double bounce. They went straight through.
But we've seen this is the first time we've really seen. But all 3 teams actually keep hold of their squad. Well, the majority of it anyway.
Yeah, obviously a few key players I would say for everyone have obviously departed.
With Decore for Watford. They have Ryan Fraser, Callum Wilson, Norwich have had Jamal Lewis and Ben Godfrey, but as a whole, they've still kept the main bulk of their squad, and they haven't got rid of too many players, so they've still got that backbone there. And in the Championship, you need a fucking strong backbone.
Likewise with what we've said over. Like you said it with Norwich, I'll highlight the same with Watford and Bournemouth. Watford have done very well to kind of keep hold of the players of the likes of Ismail Assar. Bournemouth have done very well to keep hold of a lot of their squad, kind of your Jefferson Lermers, your Danjuma Grunewald. Done very, very well.
Even Dominic Solanke.
I would say Solanke is a very big hold for them. It's those 3...
Josh King as well.
Those 3 relegated teams are performing, and they're showing how well they've managed to hold what they had.
I think even with Norwich, I think Norwich is a big one because you've got to look at the youngsters they had and the amount of links they had to big clubs. Buendia, Aarons was linked with Bayern Munich and Barcelona last window, and I think he did have a few offers coming in from Barcelona.
Yeah,
it's incredibly good that Championship clubs are able to keep hold of those players, though.
I completely agree with you on that. I think I can't shy away from the likes of the fact that Ismail Assar was linked with some very big clubs as well.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
Even Etienne Cocu, he does so well in that Watford midfield. He is like an anchor for them.
He does the things that no one sees, but you can appreciate
it's that hard work that just gets spewed around. But I know you highlighted, obviously, Tim Krul and Daniel Farker getting nominated for Manager and Player of the Month. We'll talk about Player of the Month first, Ivan Toney.
Very good striker.
He's stomped into the league, coming from Peterborough. I didn't see him actually needing to stop in the Championship. I personally thought he was going to go straight through to the Premier League.
That has been a fairly big jump. But I think we've seen so many times with League One strikers coming up to the Championship, such as Jack Marriott, who joined Derby County a few years back. They haven't really kicked on, so to speak. But Ivan Toney
has been incredible.
He's been incredible. I think it's eight or something league goals now. I can't exactly remember, but he's been very, very good for Brentford. Brentford, who have maybe had a bit of an inconsistent start to the season. But nevertheless, they've got a very, very good goal scorer there. They've found a perfect replacement for Ollie Watkins, who is now doing brilliant things with Aston Villa at the minute. And I think, Brentford will be, really happy with the signing they made of Ivan Toney.
It was not even that. They've kind of unfortunately had that kind of playoff heartache, obviously losing the final to Fulham. And they've not hit the stride that I thought they would kind of coming into this season. They did drop off at the end of last season, it's fair to say.
100%.
And they've really not found that. They're sitting mid-table at the minute. They aren't really where they would want to be. But definitely additions like Ivan Toney, despite the fact that, again, obviously they've lost Saïd Ben Rahma as well. It's one of them for Brentford that it's quite a difficult one.
I think they've always been a selling club, though. I think
they have. If you look at their selling statistics,
Andre Gray, Ben Rama, obviously Watkins.
I can see Mbeumo going not too far in the future.
Jota went to Birmingham, did he? I mean, obviously it was a bit of a downgrade, but at the same time, Brentford always really have been that selling club, and I think last season, if they would have gone up,
they would have held.
I reckon they would have held in the Premier League. But now they didn't go up. I don't think they'll challenge this season. I really don't. I think last season they had their best squad.
They need to find this vein of form that they had last season. 100%. They were a team to be feared in the league last year.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
This year, I mean, they're kind of going out every game with a whimper, really. They do well in some games, but other games you kind of look at it and go, well, that's not the Brentford we know from last year.
But we'll go on to manager month. Obviously, Brentford actually drew 0-0 to Middlesbrough last weekend. The manager month was Neil Warnock, and Middlesbrough obviously finished just above the relegation zone last season. And Neil Warnock has come in. We always know he's got that shithousery about him and that sort of Brexit style of play. And it's actually worked for Middlesbrough very well this season. They're sitting just outside the playoffs.
They have been nothing short of disciplined.
Yeah, so Neil Warnock, he's very disciplined in the way how he puts out his team and his team performs. Well regimented, and it's nice to see a team again who hasn't necessarily done as well in previous seasons doing well now. And obviously, talking of a team who's not done as well in their debut season in the Championship, have a look at Luton Town. Yeah, they're still mid-table.
They are still doing very, very well. I mean, again,
do you think they'll stay up again? They were everyone's favourites to go down because you'd think they get that second season syndrome. But I'm so confident they'll stay up.
I'm very confident. The way they're playing, they will stay up.
And do you know who it's down to? I think it's Nathan Jones. He's a club legend. I know he left to Stoke in such a weird manner, which wasn't very respectful maybe to the club. But he's come back and he's worked wonders with them again. You saw after lockdown when he returned, Luton played a lot better. And now this season they started really brightly. We're in the top two for a fair bit of time, and now they're keeping that sort of mid-table.
They've been very, very solid.
They're always going to drop points at Luton Town, for Christ's sake. They're not going to challenge.
They've not got the best players in the world. They've not necessarily got the biggest budget in the world. But by all means, they are going out there and they are putting out performances that any Luton Town fan should be happy with.
100%.
I mean, realistically, as any kind of team coming up from the lower divisions, obviously they kind of did a little double hop. Any team like your kind of Barnsley when they came up, you look at the teams this season like Coventry when they've come up, it's always going to be hard to settle straight in.
Okay, yeah, no, 100% agree.
I think they've done very well to hold their own, and I do agree. I do think they'll stay up. And I mean, I think it just kind of says, obviously, as much as the bookies do kind of write teams off, I think it does prove how competitive this league is. Anyone can and will beat anyone. I will speak about another team though. Another team who I want to get your opinion on. Do you think they'll stop being a yo-yo club from League One to the Championship? That's Rotherham United. They beat Preston North End 2-1 the other weekend, which I think is a brilliant victory. Preston are no mugs. They're a very, very solid Championship side. And Rotherham beat them 2-1. I think Rotherham this season, under Paul Warne, who is a Norwich fan, by the way. Sorry. Every week. Anyway, I'll carry on. Yeah, you will.
Yeah, no, but they've done really well, Rotherham. And I think this season they're going to start to, make it a solid place in the Championship and stop being that yo-yo side. And I really like Rotherham. I was just a bit of a soft spot for them because of Paul Warne. But yeah, they're doing really well.
Making me fall asleep, man. You talk about Norwich, my word. No, I think they've still got a lot to do.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes, they've got a result against
really good results.
Yes, they've got a decent result against a Preston team who I know firsthand are very, very solid on the road. It's just a case of, again, you can never tell when an international break comes in like it has. It does tend to break up team strides.
But it can also make them better. And I'm going to just touch on a point here. Before the international break, Norwich had won 1, drew 1, lost 2. They've come back from that international break and they've gone 7 unbeaten. So it can work either way.
It's always a difficult one, and now obviously we talk about international breaks. There has been some brilliant representation.
I think especially Scotland.
I think, Scotland I'm going to touch on straight away and go into the fact that there were some brilliant performances from Championship players out for Scotland, and obviously congratulations to Scotland on qualifying for a major tournament for the first time in I believe it was 22 years.
Yeah, 1998 was the last time.
I'm one of these people. Obviously, I know you've got your kind of Dutch roots, and you always like to see the Netherlands do well. For me, seeing a home nation do well, the home nation, obviously, you look at kind of United Kingdom. I don't mind seeing the Republic of Ireland do well as well. I think all the kind of British Isles, I always do enjoy seeing doing well, unless it's against England, in which case, obviously, I will enjoy it a little bit more if England do get a 1-over on Scotland. I think it's going to be a tough game. I think it'll be a tough game for England.
I remember watching a Scotland game and I see Kenny McLean take the 5th penalty. As a Norwich fan, I can remember you were there with me at Spurs away as well with Norwich, and Kenny McLean missed his penalty, and Norwich just stood there like, he's going to miss, and it was such a cool penalty he took. Very coolly taken. It really shocked me, and I think
I did actually make you. So you weren't there. I did make a joke that if Kenny McLean missed it, I was going to ring you straight away and laugh. No, as much as we kind of talk about players who have done well, obviously you look at. So just in terms of the kind of qualifiers for the European Championships, you had Craig Cathcart, was a part of the Northern Ireland starting squad, who unfortunately lost.
George Saville as well.
There is a lot of representation. Do
you think Championship football is getting a lot more international representation than what it used to? Because you're seeing a lot of teams having double figures of players being called for international football.
I think the standard of the Championship is massively going up.
Yeah, 100%.
I think if you look at how many players now compared to how many players back then are actually getting international call-ups over Premier League players, they're not afraid. The international teams now are not afraid to look down beyond the top division of wherever the teams are
100%.
playing.
Yeah, you look at Holland, who are a top nation, they're still picking Tim Krul. Which I think, I'm just going to touch on Tim Krul here.
For the second time.
But before this season, he hadn't been picked for an international game since that 2014 World Cup, where he single-handedly brought Holland into that semi-final. And I think that's an incredible achievement for himself, because he performed really well with Norwich. He's probably the best goalkeeper in the league, I'd say, personally. I mean, maybe a bit biased, but he is an incredible goalkeeper at this level, especially. And, he's been called up to the Holland squad again. Holland are no mugs. They are one of the best international teams in the world. And we look at Northern Ireland, a good handful of Championship players being called up there. Even Republic of Ireland. I know.
Yeah, I was going to touch on the Republic of Ireland next. I mean, if you look at kind of the likes of Adam Eder and how well Adam Eder. Obviously this is now me touching on a Norwich player who doesn't start.
He doesn't. I think he started one game this season.
Actually, I would say, having watched that game myself, he did cause problems for the defence. Like, it's really enjoyable for me to see so many Championship players represented, not just in the home nations. Obviously, we have got players that have gone further afield, even in the kind of younger ranks. I know there are a few Championship players that have been called up to their respective under-21s, under-18s.
A lot. I think the majority of the England under-21 squad are Championship players as well.
It's brilliant to see how international managers now are not afraid to look down beyond the kind of big six or the top end Premier League teams. It's really nice to see, and it's really refreshing. And I mean, I know it's not completely on the Championship, but you have to commend Birmingham City on the fact that they've produced a player now who is the third youngest player to have played for England. Obviously, he no longer plays at the club, but that he's come through their setup.
He only left in the summer.
And any commendations have to be given to Birmingham for it, because you don't often see a 17-year-old playing on an international stage, especially for a team such as England. Especially for a team who's in the top 10 ranking in the world. Obviously, England being sat currently at 4th. It'll be interesting to see if he plays any further, or whether they'll keep it to the friendly. I think there's a lot of potential going, obviously looking at the younger squads as well, for a lot of players to really kick their careers on. And it'll be interesting to see, based on who goes to the Premier League, if anything more kind of comes of it. But international football representation from the Championship this break has been quality. And
it's been refreshing to see as well. It's been
really nice to see. I mean, it shows you that the Championship is not just one of those leagues anymore where you're kind of in your crossroads scrapping for the Prem to try and get your recognisation. Players are now getting recognised from playing in the second tier.
There is some real quality in that league. There's a few big games coming up after the international break, and I think one of the standout, for me, two of the standout fixtures.
There's two games, and there's
two standout fixtures for me this weekend, and one of them is Bournemouth versus Reading.
Yeah, I think that's the first one I've got to try and not shy away from.
How do you think you're going to fare up in this one? Obviously,
I mean,
I'm
just enjoying the fact that
you're still top.
Well, no, I'm enjoying the fact that I'm not having to pay for the game additionally to Sky Sports. As much as I love the fact that we're able to watch the games on iFollow, paying a tenner a week to get the Game Pass.
iFollow sort out. But if you want to sponsor us, feel free.
Shameless. This is kind of a continuation on what seems to be a run of somehow we're getting put on TV now. I mean, before the Coventry game where we got shown and exposed for who we are as a mid-table team, we hadn't been put on TV since QPR at home on Boxing Day last season.
That's a long time.
Bournemouth, no mugs. I think it could be an embarrassing one for us if we don't turn up.
Have you got? Obviously, you spoke earlier in the podcast about the main bulk of your squad being out injured. Have you got the majority of them back now or not?
So Swifty is out what looks like until Christmas/New Year. Obviously, we have had Yeardom come back in recently, which is good because it's giving him another bit of kind of defensive solidity, but he's not quite yet fit to do a 90 minutes, so he's still kind of being integrated back in. I know with the likes of Mate, the likes of Ajaria, they are, and Liam Moore, I believe they're close to potential returns. However, Ajaria was rumoured to be coming back 3 games ago. It's good. I think it's a game-by-game fitness test. Yeah. If they can kind of maintain things throughout training, that determines whether they get back in. But enough about Reading, enough about me rambling on about them.
But however,
Bournemouth have got a very, very solid chance here.
Danjuna Grunevel, Solanke.
They've got a very solid chance to cement themselves in a top spot, because if you look at these fixtures,
Middlesbrough and Norwich was the next one that I was going to come on to.
That is for me another very standout game. It's going to be a hard one for you guys, and actually based on the games, Bournemouth have a chance. Well, they'll put themselves top of the league if they do it, because it is the half-12 game. They'll put themselves top. Whether they'll still be there come about 5:30, I don't know. But
Watford probably be expected to beat QPR, although it is away. They'll probably be expected to in their game this weekend.
But like we say every single
Norwich Middlesbrough is going to be a big one.
Like we say, anyone can beat anyone.
Exactly.
It's going to be an interesting one. By all means, across fixtures, Derby have got a very tough test for Rooney's first game in charge against Bristol City. Let's have a look at where we are in terms of the Tuesday evening fixtures.
Now, the big one for me, again, we look at Norwich, they've got Middlesbrough away, then they've got Stoke away, 2 teams who are just outside the playoffs. They'll be eager to get into those playoff places. Norwich, who are on really good form, but these 2 games are going to be such a season-defining moment for me, because they're 2 tough teams, 2 very solid defensive teams, and difficult to beat, especially at their home ground. So this is a big test.
I'm going to touch on another couple of games that I think might rival that for big game. Wycombe Wanderers, Huddersfield Town. That's a very big game further down the leagues. Wycombe at home. They
can pick up points at the weekend and go into midweek picking up points. Maybe they could put...
Adams Park is not an easy place for any team to go.
No, because it's not even in the town of Wycombe. You've got to go outside. That's why it's not an easy place to go to.
Do you see what I have to work with here, people? I'm trying to actually analyse football, and he makes a useless joke. He should get a better haircut.
Yeah, good point. Anyway, let's carry on.
But it's not going to be an easy test for Huddersfield, and again, it'll be interesting to see if Wycombe can. It's back-to-back home games for Wycombe.
It is
from the Saturday into the Tuesday. It'll be interesting to see what they can achieve. The other one for me is a kind of a team high and flying against a team down the bottom. Bournemouth against Nottingham Forest.
And Nottingham Forest, obviously, as you say, with Chris Hughton coming in, they have turned things around. Bournemouth also are in very good form. Depends how they do on the Saturday fixture against you, but I think we all see them as the favourites at the minute. It's an interesting one. It definitely is. I think Nottingham Forest are on the rise, and personally, I can see it being a draw. But I think overall, Bournemouth being at home with the form they're under, I can see them winning personally.
It's going to be an interesting game nonetheless. So like I said, Chris Hughton, very good manager. He's actually walked into a decent Forest squad who have shown they can perform with what they managed to achieve last year. But if we head into looking at the 5 games on the Wednesday now, for me,
there's 2 games,
2 standout games.
2 standout games in this one.
What do you think? And before we go into them, we'll see if we agree on this one. What do you reckon?
My first one's going to be Bristol City versus Watford.
My first one is actually Middlesbrough against Derby.
My second one is Millwall Reading.
My second one, I'm just going in chronological order on the list. I do agree with you on the Bristol City Watford thing. I'll touch on Middlesbrough Derby first. Derby, again, it's going to be an interesting one to see how they can do.
Can see how Wayne Rooney does. This is going to be a big test.
As much as we talk about Middlesbrough being shored up at the back, they have only scored 9 goals all season. It does scream 0-0, like a lot of Middlesbrough's games have this season. It's going to be a very, very tough one for both sides. I don't think Derby will make it easy for Middlesbrough, but obviously looking at the league table, you would expect Middlesbrough to perform and turn up and get a result. But you can never look at the league table in the Championship, as we've seen so many times.
Right, anyway, we'll move on to Bristol City versus Watford. For me, this game screams goals at both ends.
Yeah.
Bristol City defensively, there's definitely been gaps in there, which Watford's likes of João Pedro, Ismail Assar will definitely...
João Pedro has been nothing short of incredible for Watford.
For an 18-year-old lad, he knows...
For how the fact that this is me kind of showing a bit of understanding of Watford, I've got to shout out to Tom for that, because he had me going to Watford under-23 games last year. Don't regret it at all, football, and as much as you guys probably do as well, I miss football. Watford...
Pray for the COVID vaccine. I hope it works.
Not necessarily even that, mate. Just, we need things to change, but I'm not here to talk about COVID.
We're not
COVID
here for politics, we're here for football.
COVID is all I hear. All I want to talk about is how João Pedro has literally jumped from playing only under-23 football last year. He's stormed into the first team squad and he is doing so well. Like you said, both teams very capable of scoring, both teams very capable of conceding. Yeah. This is one of them games that you could back to be a 3 or 4 or draw, or something along those lines. It's big for both teams because obviously they're both cemented in the playoffs at the minute.
Watford second at the minute.
My mistake. This is obviously their first time kind of jumping up into the top 2, but both teams cemented in the top 6. I'll correct myself and I apologise for that mistake on my part, and I'll let you talk about what you see as the other big game.
So Millwall Reading for me is a big game because I think Millwall in the Championship in the past few seasons, they've always just finished outside the playoffs for me. So potentially Reading can have another banana slip here, depending on how they do against Bournemouth, which I see them losing, unfortunately.
No, I totally agree. I think it'd be interesting based on whatever happens on the Saturday. And then whatever happens on Saturday will determine how the kind of mood is going into the Wednesday.
Anyway, we'll move on. We'll just quickly cover one fixture. I want one fixture from you from the following weekend that you think is going to scream goals and scream a brilliant encounter for me.
Goals and a brilliant encounter. Well, looking at goals and a brilliant encounter, I'd probably look at Watford Preston. Obviously, again with Preston's huge away form.
Preston do like goals at both ends.
Preston love a goal. Watford love a goal. But I actually think I'm not going to go for. I'm going to contrast you on what you just asked me for. I think the massive game for me is a Saturday 3:00. Derby County hosting Wycombe.
Yeah, see, I was actually going to say that as well, but I'm going to have to change my opinion. But yeah, I think that's going to scream goals.
Let's quickly touch on that. Derby being at home, again, not playing well. Obviously, we can't talk about what might have happened because we are filming this in advance of what's happened for the midweeks. It'll be really interesting to see.
It will still be a bottom of the table encounter.
We'll have a look at this one.
However, for me, a game that screams goals. And Norwich City do love scoring goals against Coventry City from the past. I'm not. I think the last time we played them, we scored 6 past them.
If anyone would like to replace kind of him Because, quite frankly, it's Norwich with you, isn't it?
And it's running with you. But anyway, I'm being genuinely serious.
Not quite.
This is not being... I
do agree with you. It's an interest.
And Coventry like shipping goals. But Coventry also like scoring goals. Matty Godden's a very good player for them. Callum O'Hare as well.
Let's not even try and... let's not ignore the fact that they scored a 25-yard header against Watford. And what's a goal?
But the fact is, they've been involved with two of the top three sides they've played already. They've been involved in 3-2 thrillers against you, where they beat you 3-2, with Sam McCallum, Norwich Loney scoring the winner, and with Watford, where Watford beat them 3-2. But they've been involved with 3-2, excellent games, and that's what I see happening here. Not maybe a 3-2, but I see a game with goals and possibly a thrilling encounter. But anyway,
could be an interesting one, and it's definitely going to be a nice way to end November. Obviously, with football being, we're being treated to a Sunday game as well. It's going to be. I think the league table could look completely different come this time next week. It's going to be an interesting one to see what happens. But as we always say, it's going to be chills, thrills, and a hell of a lot of points being gained by teams that we may not necessarily expect to. It's going to be an interesting end to November. Hopefully, for the sake of ourselves and our own sanities, our team perform well. And I hope, obviously, for everyone listening in, if you are looking for a nice vein of form for your teams to pick up, we hope that you kind of are able to gain that. And it'll be interesting to see what the table looks like come the start of December. But I think that's going to be us for this.
So if you did enjoy the podcast, go subscribe, go like the video, go comment on what you think we should talk about in the next podcast, and also go follow our socials, and we'll see you next time.